Bosses of Reddit, what's the weirdest reason why you had to fire an employee? As a restaurant manager, caught a dishwasher making sweet love to a raw chicken breast in the bathroom. It was so awkward that I wish I hadn't even caught him. Nurse here. First job was in a nursing home. One resident told me there was a devil in the window and it kept scaring her. I thought dementia. Walked in the room just as a person in a devil mask slammed themselves against the window. I ran outside and tackled them and pulled off the mask a la Scooby-Doo. It was one of the CNAs. He thought that giving her a heart attack would be fair retribution for her being a little cranky when he took vital signs. Fired him on the spot even though I didn't have the authority to do so. It stuck. This is truly one of the most WTF stories I read in this thread. Also, good job on the auto fire. Oh yeah, and the tackle too. We had a kid that worked at the deli in the supermarket from my hometown who was fired after he ate all the skin off of every rotisserie chicken they had. The skin's the best part of rotisserie chicken. That monster. Sister had to fire my aunt. She got her a job at a call center for a cable provider. Aunt decided she didn't want to work for a few days. Called in and said her husband died. Sister found out when co-workers were pooling money to send flowers. It did not end well. Uncle never knew he died. That's an awkward Thanksgiving. I was a manager at a Jimmy John's some years ago. At this Jimmy John's we had a mentally handicapped 17-year-old kid who we basically paid to just clean the tables. Nice enough kid, but he had one slight problem. He would sneak away during the shift and masturbate in the bathroom. One night we had some friends of co-workers in to eat and one of them walked in. Oh, this kid in action. I know what you are thinking. He was probably bent over the sink, trying to get a quick tug out before anyone noticed his absence. No, he was sitting bare-assed on the floor, going to town on himself like nobody's business with his pants and underwear pulled down and only around one leg. So he freaks out, runs up and tells me, and we all actually have a nice laugh about it. I was probably 20 or 21 at the time and found this quite hilarious. After we had a good laugh about it, I told him we were lucky it was someone our co-workers knew, because he could potentially be in a lot of trouble. He said he understood and promised never to do it again. Fast forward to a week later. It's the lunch shift on a Sunday. We are slammed with deliveries and in-shop customers when I hear a very irate woman yelling, "I need a manager." She explains to me how her 15-year-old son just walked into the bathroom and saw one of our employees naked and masturbating. As if there is any question who it is, I start apologizing profusely. Once the kid got dressed and came out of the bathroom, she saw that he was handicapped. She lightened up quite a bit. I really don't even remember all the things she was yelling at me, but as you can imagine, she was pretty hot. I gave her $115 worth of gift certificates as well as the home number to the franchise owner since the kid got hired because his parents went to church with the owner. After I got the lady and her kid dealt with, I called the kid's mom and told him he can't work there anymore. She was furious and just told me the locks on the doors must be confusing to him and to teach him how to use them. So I said, why don't you just teach him how to not jack off in public? I mean, let's face it, if I can't jack off on the clock, why should he? $115 worth of Jimmy John's gift certificates. That's a lot of bootlegger clubs. Our company had a corporate apartment we used mostly for out-of-town clients when they came in for meetings. I usually handled the maintenance of it, monitoring the cleaning service, setting up fresh flowers, fruit basket, etc. for whenever it was going to be used. Eventually I got promoted and assigned those duties to my new assistant. One day she called in sick, so when I found out a client was in town last minute, I offered him the apartment for the night and met him there to show him where everything was since he'd never stayed there before. Imagine my and his surprise when I opened the front door to find my assistant and her boyfriend engaging in a little friendly game of oral sex on the living room carpet. After I slammed the door shut and hurriedly got him in a cab to a hotel, I went back to work and listened to my voicemail. She had called to apologize for having lied about being sick. No apologies about the live sex show we'd just witnessed. Just sorry, I wasn't really sick. I just wanted a day off. Needless to say, that was the first of many days off for her. She didn't want to get off work. She wanted to get off at work. I used to manage a liquor store. The weirdest firing I ever had to do was also the fastest. We hired a rather rotund young man to be an evening clerk. Being a portly fellow myself, I saw no reason he couldn't manage the stocking and other physical parts of the job as well as I did. Evidently he didn't share that opinion. I knew there was going to be trouble when he started off his first day by trying to tell me what to do, and I mean within the first few minutes of his shift. When I asked him why he thought he was in charge, he explained that since he was older than me, I should do what he says. I was 22 at the time. He was 23. After explaining to him that, actually, the person with 3 years of experience in the position of manager does get to tell the new hire how to do his job, I proceeded to list out his duties, then asked him to restock our coolers. These were about 9 doors wide, with a walk-in refrigerated area behind. 30 minutes into what should have been a 10-minute job, I went to see how he was doing. I discovered that not only had he not stocked any beer, he had rearranged the cases into a makeshift chair, complete with a back and arms, and was just sitting in the 33-degree cooler like he was a cold miser in a Christmas special. When I asked WTF he was doing, he explained that he needed to rest because he was tired from moving all the beer cases, the ones he had rearranged to make a beer throne. I called the owner, explained I thought I'd be better off finishing the shift on my own, and gave the lord of the cooler his walking papers. To this day, he's still the most WTF employee I've ever had, or seen. TLDR. New hire decided to give orders to manager, then build beer throne in cooler. Got fired in less than an hour. Yeah, but still. Beer throne. The stuff dreams are made of. He took pictures of another co-worker pooping and posted it on Facebook. The pooper wanted to press charges for sexual harassment. These were guys in their 30s. A teacher at my school was fired for telling her class about her vagina and how beautiful it was. She taught mathematics. I worked at a Sonic in high school. I was promoted to night manager. First thing my boss had me do was call my grandparents to fire them. "Grandpa, I have to fire you and grandma." His reply, "I love you and I understand why this is happening. Tell your cocksucker of a boss that I'll be into work tomorrow and he can fire me himself." First time I ever heard him cuss. My wife had to fire a Guitar Center employee because he came to work late. His excuse: he was wired all night from smoking catnip. He wanted to feel what cats feel. I want to feel what cats feel. I think I'll go crap in a box. I witnessed an amazing termination. I work for a staffing agency with 2 different divisions, one industrial temporary and one more managerial level. I was in the middle of interviewing a guy who had just walked in claiming to have been laid off from a company the industrial temporary side works with. During the interview, one of my co-workers from the temporary side walked through and screamed, "Damn it, Ray. We fired you this morning. Get out of the building." Apparently the day before the guy pulled a knife on his boss, and his boss defended himself with a piece of lead pipe. They kept fighting and ran into the parking lot going at each other until quite a crowd formed. No one was seriously hurt, but you can't just try to knife people in the parking lot. When I asked him why he pulled a knife, he said it was because his new boss was acting like he was better than me when I'm twice his age. TLDR. Guy pulls a knife on boss. Boss strikes back with a lead pipe. Gets fired. Guy comes back the next day to try to interview for a job with the same company. One of our mid-level field consultants, father of 2, well-educated and decent guy, got a pretty poor customer survey sent in from the CEO of one of our large financial clients. This CEO also brings his 2 white labs to the office just about every day. Fast forward a few days later, CEO calls us up saying he needs us to come in and review security camera footage. Apparently, when the aforementioned field consultant was tasked to go back and fix what he didn't fix the first time, he thought it would be great revenge to crap on the CEO's office floor and blame it on the dogs. Problem was, the CEO's dogs were being groomed that morning. We had to let him go. He had no regrets. She sent us a text that she was skipping her shift to do C. She then sent us a text immediately afterward that the previous text was meant for someone else and she was resigning. She was thinking, frick it, no way out of this one. Dang, though. He didn't exactly get fired, more like not hired. We pick up people from the Goodwill Helping Hands program, a program that finds work for those who otherwise have a hard time getting work. They are paid by Goodwill for I believe 2 months, and then the place they're at decides if they want to hire them on or not. This has led to a series of hilarious trials. But one guy, he was an older guy, probably around 50. This guy didn't live too far, so he walked to work every day. One day, as he tells it, a car scared him by driving by fast and too close to where he was walking. He crapped his pants. Instead of going home and changing, or coming into work and using our shower and spare clothes, he took his crappy underwear off and brought them into the kitchen to another employee. He then handed them to said employee and said, "Will you wash this for me, if you don't mind?" He had a lot of other issues going on that ended with him not being hired, but this is my favorite on that list. That guy was senior management material. I was fired from a dog kennel for unknowingly playing with a wolf. She thought I knew it was a wolf and I was being a reckless teenager. I was working at the McDonald's at the time and there was this Asian Frank. Well, I called him Frank cause no one could pronounce his real name. He was this overly relaxed type of guy. The following happened. Frank was working on the drive-in section. He had to fill the bags. Frank got hungry, so he decided to eat a chicken nugget. Now, instead of doing this in a quick and stealthy way, Frank decided to open an already packed chicken nugget box and take a nugget out. He did this right in front of the window, so the customer could clearly see Frank was eating his stuff. The manager also noticed, so I heard this scream from the back going, "The heck do you think you are doing?" Frank's reaction was priceless. He had a nugget halfway up his mouth. He just stared at the manager. Not angry, not defiant, just this normal deadlock stare, and he bit down, eating half of the nugget. Still staring at the manager, he proceeds to chew agonizingly slow, while putting the other half of the nugget back into the box and closes it. He then, still staring at the manager, puts the freaking box into the customer's bag. And that was Frank's career at the McDonald's. Typical Asian Frank. I work at a restaurant. Well, we recently had a new dishwasher start working that everyone thought was a little bit off. He'd say strange things and blink a lot when he spoke. Not like regular blinking, very forceful blinking. Almost like he scrunched his face up every time. Anyways, that's just a detail. It's actually not relevant. So he ends up staying later at work than anyone else, you know, doing cleanup and the like. Our establishment, like most places, has an accountant. Well, one night she was trying to remotely access the computers at the office at work, minding her own business, doing maths and all that, when someone starts closing her tabs. She keeps trying to reopen them, only to have them close down again. Then the P starts popping up. Not just one site, this guy is accessing a buttload of P sites at the computer at work, thinking no one can see what he's doing, which, to be fair, you wouldn't normally think about. Anyways, she calls the boss, who then calls the restaurant. Of course the guy doesn't pick up, he's busy choking his chicken. Boss keeps calling. Eventually the dude answers the phone. Does he politely answer and say that we are closed? No, of course not. He yells frick off and slams the phone back down, so he can resume his so rudely interrupted business, no doubt. Anyways, the last we heard was that his keys were promptly taken from him the next day he showed up for work. Why he showed up again is beyond anyone's guess, and we now remember him as Jerk-Off Jeff. True story. I imagine this scene. Squeegee 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 fricking phone squeegee frick off squeegee squeegee squeegee. Not a boss, but I am in charge of training and performance reviews after a probationary period. Over 5 years. The top 3 outrageous reasons that come to mind. 1. One man we had hired could not make it to the bathroom in time, so he used the garbage chute to relieve himself. 2. One employee hollowed out a cantaloupe and merged it with a cucumber to make a fruit and veggie bong and toke up in the cooler. 3. One woman we hired would disappear for hours on end for medical reasons but always stay to make up for the time missed, so initially didn't question it. Then we found out through police she was a prostitute and would use the store as a pick-up and drop-off point for conducting business. TL Doctor. 1. Peeing in the garbage chute. 2. Fruit and veggie bong creation. 3. Prostitute first, employee second. I wasn't a boss at the time, but I had a co-worker that decided to leave work on the clock to pick up his friend. About an hour goes by and the store gets a call. It was my co-worker. He had to explain to management that he was in the back of a cop car for drag racing. The funny part is management had no idea he had left. Why would you even ring up? You'd simply play it cool. Say some emergency came up and you rushed out without clocking off or notifying anyone. And get them not to pay you for the entire shift. When I managed a porno theater adult toy store, I had to sit down with an employee and go over surveillance footage of him stealing a pocket P and using it to masturbate in my stock room. I then handed him his final check, minus the cost of the damaged product. The most awkward and entertaining termination I ever had to conduct. When I managed a porno theater, that's all I needed to hear. An ungodly amount of pee, like enough pee to make a Redditor blush. His computer crashed, so he took it to our IT people and the hidden pee mountain was discovered. And it turned out that he was watching it at work, which I still have no idea how it was possible since we have open cubicles where you can easily see everyone's workstation. It's a shame because he was good at his job and a super nice guy to boot. On top of it all, his wife left him shortly thereafter. At least he had the pee, I guess. At my pizza place, I had to fire a guy because he called in sick and then ordered pizza for a party using his employee discount. Idiot. Poor guy was probably upstairs in bed sick with the party going on downstairs, being hassled by the partygoers to use his employee discount on the pizza they wanted and ordered it for them just to get them to leave him alone so he could go to sleep. Capital P. When I was 17 I worked at Wendy's and one night one of my co-workers had a really bad asthma attack in the back room. The manager insisted that no one call for an ambulance because the company would be liable. After about 10 minutes of this girl gasping for breath on the floor I picked her up and took her to the OR where they gave her a shot of something to fix it. When I got back to work they fired me for leaving during my shift. I didn't even fight it. That was the worst job I've ever had. A coworker of mine got fired for greeting another coworker with "What up blood?" A customer overheard him and got him reported. I got suspended once for not telling a guest with a peanut allergy that a peanut butter cookie has peanuts. I'm an art director and had to hire an assistant. She had an impressive portfolio, a decent, but not overly incredible, resume, and when I called her references, they sang her praises. HR seemed to think that was enough and approved her for the position. About a month later, I was smoking a cigarette with a guy from IT and he said how funny it was that my assistant constantly googled how to insert action here in Adobe Illustrator. I thought it was funny too. So I went to her desk, told her to save the page as a PDF, and she just froze and started trembling. Excuses, excuses, excuses. I walked away. Sure enough, I got a PDF 5 minutes later. I found her portfolio and did a reverse image search. Every last image was stolen. I called back one of the references and the number was not in service. I contacted HR. They did the background check, and it turns out she had just gotten out of prison for felony identity theft. She also had 2 gross misdemeanors for theft. She had never been a graphic designer and never even went to college. TLDR. My ex-felon assistant graphic designer faked a portfolio, references, and resume and skated by googling how to do everything. For posting "I hate my new job" on his first day on Facebook, using an office computer while he was supposed to be working. LTP, do not add you boss on Facebook on your first day. Where to start? 1. Guy claiming our Mexican store manager planted a fake $20 in his drawer because he wanted to give his job to another Mexican. 2. Left my energy drink out in my office and came back to it spiked with cheap vodka. It tasted drastically different and sharp when I came back. Only other guy in the store stunk like that same cheap vodka. 3. Girl never showed up to open the store because she was on an impromptu road trip with her new man. 4. Guy was skimming ATM cashbacks, selecting cashback on debit and pocketing it. People in that area were rich as frick, they never noticed. Eventually he did it to 2 mall employees and refused to give them receipts and got canned. He got caught over $20. He said on his way out the door that he had made $6K. 5. Standard lied on his application about a felony when his GF didn't lie for him. He gave her number as his parole officer when he got called out. He beat her bloody and brought her in to show me what I caused to happen when he came for his final check. 6. Bad BO. We got cited by the health department because customers reported rotting food. He was homeless apparently, but he had a shower in his hotel room and I'd given him money for deodorant. I tried. 7. Another guy I caught lying about his felony. When we fired him, he tried to run me over in the parking lot. That's all I can remember offhand. ETA. This was when I worked for Taco Bell. The BO homeless guy came out alright and got a better job in his own apartment. The GF beater got off since she refused to file a complaint or testify. I'm sure he's in jail now though, so no worries. I should look that up sometime. I had to fire a guy less than a week after he started. This was back in the late 90s and he was supposed to be writing some HTML. Instead, he took apart the desktop we gave him, laid out all the parts and started air blowing them. Day after day. I don't remember all of it, but that Friday was the day my boss taught me how to fire someone. Not my story, but when my dad was in charge of HR for this company, he had to fire an employee for asking another employee if she shaved her pee. Apparently, the female employee was sitting in the break room when the man just sauntered in there, sat next to her for a minute or so, and then popped the question. When their supervisor came to report it to him, my dad almost fell out of his chair laughing. I don't know if this is weird or just mind-blowing. I started my job a couple months after the previous manager had quit. My employees all loved her, and I soon figured out why. She did 80% of their jobs for them, and never disciplined or even spoke to anyone about anything negative they were doing. So I immediately notice one lady is always late for her shifts, not by 5 minutes. I wouldn't care about that. She's coming 35-40 minutes late, every shift. After a few times I sit down with her and explain to her she's expected to be on time. We have this conversation. Me, you need to stop coming in consistently late. You literally haven't been on time in 2 weeks. Her, I can't help it, the bus I take is slow. Me, so you take an earlier bus. Her, but then I'd have to get up a half hour earlier in the day, do my chores a half hour earlier, and all that. Me, yes, this is correct. You do what you have to do to get to your job on time. It's not like you have to get up at 5 in the morning to be here. Your shift doesn't start until 1 or 2 p.m. So this works for like a week. She starts coming on time, until one day she comes in 35 minutes late for her shift. 3:35. Upon her arrival she asks if on her 15-minute break she can go take a walk around the block. I tell her she can do whatever she likes. It's her break. She takes her 15-minute break at 3:45, 10 minutes after she arrives. So I'm working. Everyone's busy. And about 90 minutes later I say, hey, wait a minute. Where's person's name? Everyone realizes she never came back from her break. It's about 5 o'clock, so it's time for me to go home. So I leave and ask my employees to keep me updated. I'm driving home and I get a call from another manager at another one of our locations. We provide mental health services for individuals, and she is ripshit. Her, why the frick is person's name over at my program? Me, wait, what? Her, I just got a call from one of my employees stating person's name showed up, demanded entrance into the program, was told no because they didn't know who she was, and then pushed by them. They called me, and I happened to recognize the person as being one of your employees. Me, are you crapping me? She disappeared 90 minutes ago. I've had no clue where she is. Her, she walked over to our program, barged in, and then started talking to clients and writing down their personal information, saying it was for a school project. Me, frick me, just fail on so many levels. Ironically, the lady really was just doing a school project, but she could not understand why I was upset that she showed up 35 minutes late for her shift, took her 15-minute break 10 minutes after getting there, went to another program, assaulted staff to gain access, and then began berating other patients for their personal health information. When I laid it out for her like that, she said, yeah, but you said I could walk around the neighborhood when I took my 15 inches. Ugh. This is possibly more creepy than weird, but I feel it falls into both categories. I used to be a supervisor at a large national grocery chain, and you know how hard it can be to keep help at those places, so we'd get some real winners. We hired this one guy, I'd say around 50, He spent all his breaks and lunches in the break room with a notebook in front of him, working on his mathematical formula for solving the lottery. He walked to work and always seemed to be a bit off, so I always tried to at least generally entertain his ideas when I was in the break room with him. And man, they were out there. Being a grocery store, we were also a major employer of underage people. One in particular was a 16-year-old girl named Heather. Heather was a sweet girl, fairly average looking, who was always quite nice to this guy. One day I'm standing behind the registers supervising, when a bagger comes up to me and hands me a note, saying, this was just given to Heather. I take a look, and it's a horrible, fairly explicit poem signed by this creep. I practically ran up to the manager's office and they called the girl's parents and rang up HR to let them know they were getting the creep out of there today. Heather got called upstairs as well, and we kept her there while escorting creepy guy off the store grounds. He proceeded to go through the union and appeal his firing all the way up to the district manager level, and each time they'd just pull out the poem and turn him down. For a while after that I'd just see him wandering around town. No idea what he's up to now. I suppose it's perhaps not supposed to be funny, but the first few words of the poem make me giggle every time I think about them. Heather, Heather, dressed in leather. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.